Hi guys, my name is Dick Broughton and I'm a Randomfish. Hit that subscribe button and let's all be Randomfishers together, shall we? In 1995, a film was released that ultimately gained critical and fan-based cult following over the years, despite at the time getting very mixed to bad reviews. So much so that now in 2020, possibly in 2020, we don't know at this point, we'll have a musical on Broadway about it, which frankly is amazing. Even though I doubt I'll see it for years and years, it's kind of cool that this has turned into a thing. And that film is Empire Records. This film is unique. Despite what the critics said, the critics called it a predictable teen drama, a soundtrack that was amazing, but the plot was abysmal. And you know what? The plot is predictable. But it's not BS. It's not bad. The characters are interesting. There's a link for almost everybody in that film. There's cool, quotable lines that you can always say to each other. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on in that film that ultimately makes you happy to be a music fan. Now, this film was made in 1995, which means it was made at a time when I personally wouldn't have been old enough to enjoy it. But the person who put me onto this thing, my older brother, was old enough to know it. And he was old enough to enjoy it. And he has. Hell, we found this in CEX for 50p and he turned around and went, "You have to own this. You have to." So I did, and frankly, I don't think I've ever regretted it since. And, okay, what's the plot of this? The plot is, essentially speaking, 24 hours in the lives of a bunch of employees of a shop called Empire Records, which is attempting to be taken over by Music Town, which is essentially the giant conglomerate music-based shops that want to take all the independent shops and turn them into little, robotic slave headquarters. At least that's how it's sort of portrayed as what it is in the 90s, which I have to admit, you do kind of see from that perspective. I'm sorry, you just do. But this film ultimately portrays that the guy that's running the place, the manager called Joe, he wants to put an end to this, and he's trying to get money together to buy the shop from the current owner of it, a guy who very frankly does not care. He doesn't want to have a music shop. He wants to make money. And he wants to go back to what his grandfather used to have before his father turned it into a record store. Which, again, he hates as a concept. Which, I don't think I've ever quite understood this desire for people to sort of just take what's been handed to them. If they don't like it, surely you pass it off to someone else to run and not have to think about it as much. Or at least keep the place, reap the benefits, but have someone else do all the work. Come on. Okay. So, the film essentially does end with Music Town not happening and with the shop being bought by the manager and his employees. And yes, that is predictable, and it is very cliche how they get around it and how they get the money together. But at the same time, like I said, if you're a true music fan, you will appreciate this ending. Not because it's drenched in music, but because it's drenched in music fans coming together. Which, as I've said it before in various other formats, you don't see that often. You just don't. People at this point at this day and age, music fans especially, are not fans of working together as a team. And never have been. You can have rap fans and metal fans having complete arguments half the time, at least at the time either in the 90s or at least in the early 2000s. Or at least in the early 2000s when you weren't trying to talk about how bad Limp Bizkit was, but that's another question altogether. But music fans coming together to support something like this is big. Because if you have enough of us, you can do anything. You just can. And I think that's why I love this film so much. Not because it's a predictable comedy, but because it's a fun salute to true uniting people, to a true uniting cause. And that's what it is. But let's move on to the characters. We have the guy that kickstarts the whole event off, Lucas, who discovers about the Music Town take over and attempts to go to Vegas with over $9,000 to make a lot of money so that he can come back, give the money to the manager Joe at the time, and get him to buy the store so the Music Town threat doesn't happen. He ends up losing all of it without a single penny left to his name. It's bad. It's very bad. And like I said, that's what kicks off the whole event. That's what kicks off the 24 hours of what you get in the lives of these people. You get AJ and Corey, who are the, I shall say, the romantic leads of the film. They end up making kissy kissy at the end, which is, of course, aww and lovely jubbly. But then we get on to the really fun characters. AJ is fun, don't get me wrong, but there's a bunch of characters out there that are incredibly interesting. You have the characters of Mark, who's a complete pothead to the point of the fact that he's eating, you know, brownies, special brownies, I should say, while watching a video of a rather... the band that I think Lordi might have been inspired by, at least, doing a song, and he's so high that he then imagines that they want him to join the band, and he then gets eaten by a plant while watching himself on TV while still eating the pot brownie, which I have to say is a hilarious concept. We then have Eddie, who is the guy who works part-time there. He also works in the pizza place, but he is very much, he is the guy that is obsessed with vinyl. Do you remember in High Fidelity that Jack Black character that you know, the character that says essentially the line of, you know, what's it, you know, all of these idiots who got rid of their turntables. Another cruel trick of those people who got rid of their turntables. Yes, Eddie's like this. You see an actual scene of him stood there, you know, looking at a record and suddenly going, do you know what this is? This is why people shouldn't, you know, this is why you don't, this is why it's doing this, man, because you have it at a weird angle and it's warping it, and oh my god, you shouldn't do this. And so I says, you would never do this with a CD, you know, and he looks at a CD that's been burnt, he goes, the CD's been burnt, this would never happen on vinyl, slams it down. Or, you know, a kid picks up a record to have a look at it and he goes, whoa, whoa, little man, a record is like a living thing, and it's this, and it's amazing, and I love the guy because he's so obsessed with it. He's obsessed with vinyl to where, for example, how I'm obsessed with film and movies and all that sort of thing, where I can talk about this sort of thing for hours and hours and hours. Ask members of my family, it's happened, I've done it at parties. And I'm not even going to apologise for it either, which is kind of sad. But that's the thing. He talks about vinyl with such intensity and such passion that it's fun to watch. It's brilliant. Like I said, Mark is the pothead of the group. He wants to start a band, he wants to do all of that sort of thing, and he wants to have fun with it. You have the character of Burko, who is in a band himself. He plays guitar. He's kind of like the cool, calm, collected character. You know, he's the guy that, you know, when you first meet him, everyone's yelling at him to wake up, and he opens the door to his house, his trailer, whatever the hell it is that he lives in, and he leans out, and all he's wearing is a waistcoat, and he's got his guitar still strung on his back, looks around, waves, shuts the door again. Yes! Love it! We then get the, like I said, Corey and AJ have already introduced those two characters as being like the love focus of the film, as it were, like the relationship focus of the film. AJ spends the entire film trying to tell Corey that he has feelings for her, that he likes her, and all this sort of thing. Corey doesn't quite get it at the beginning. She says something like, you know, she believes that AJ is her best friend. She doesn't really think that they should date because she thinks that being friends is more important than being together. And at the end, she has a go at him and says that she does actually like him and, you know, does love him and blah, 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 and they kiss and it's all lovely jubbly. Corey's story throughout the entire film is an interesting one because she thinks she knows what she wants. And she thinks that doing something... She thinks by sleeping with a guy called Rex Manning, a disgraced 80s pop star, who does appear in the film, she thinks that by sleeping with him that she'll feel better about herself, that she'll be ready to sort of go off to college or go off to university and be a grown-up. because she's done everything so perfectly up until now, and she thinks she can have the perfect guy and the perfect life and everything else. And she fails at that, and she kind of realizes and has to take a step back and a reevaluation of her situation and her life, because she's also taking pills, basically, to keep up with her performance, which, you know, don't do drugs, kids. Very important message to really have, it really is. You then have Gina, another character who is brilliant. You know, she's the slutty character. She really is. There's no way else of describing her. But again, she's funny. She has good lines. She actually has good insight into how things work and how people are, and all this sort of thing. And it's brilliant, and it's fun to watch her do her thing, and it really is. And then you have Deb, or Deborah. She's a character who you don't really see much of. At least her entrance is just a shot of the back of her head. She walks in, she gives the finger to everyone, she shuts the door, she's in the bathroom, the employee bathroom, and she takes out a pair of scissors and a razor and a shaver, and she shaves herself bald. And that's really her. That's like the first thing that she does on screen. It's the one thing you remember. She goes through this whole thing of doing the whole I tried to kill myself mentality. You know, and she very much is that person that sits there and wanted people to notice her so badly that she does what she does. You know, if you guys haven't watched it, then I don't quite understand what you're doing here, but whatever. Spoilers, if nothing else. But she very much isn't trying to kill herself. She's sick and tired of being invisible in the world. And I can kind of understand that in a way. You know, in different situations, in certain situations, you feel like you're invisible to everybody else because you don't always feel like your existence is acknowledged. You don't get it. You don't always feel like that. And honestly, that's something that just happens a lot in films like this, and in sometimes in the world, in the real world. It's very sad, but it's a reality thing, you know. But going away from the slightly depressive stuff anyway, we then move on to what I think is possibly one of the most favourite characters in the film, and in complete honesty, if the Andran company that I had been with when I was 9 had attempted to do a version of this on stage, I would play this character. This is a character called Warren. He comes in, he steals stuff from the store, he's caught, he's nearly sent away with the police, and then he comes back with a gun full of blanks and tries to get the store to acknowledge his existence or to try and give him a job or something, and goes flying off the handle at various points, and he's just so squeaky and so loud and so and so much swearing and so just he's trying so hard to be one of the cool kids. And you know, if it wasn't for the fact that he, you know, was throwing essentially a temper tantrum, he would be one of the cool kids. I feel like this kid, not designed off of me, but very much was reflective of me at a certain age. I was so desperate to be in with the cool kids that I just don't think it ever got there. I never got in that world as far as I was concerned. It was hilarious. You know, this kid Warren, there's this whole bit where he has the gun and he's holding it up, and AJ is behind the counter, and everyone else is outside doing a thing with Deb, trying to like make her feel better about herself and going through that conversation and blah 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 blah. And Warren comes in with the gun, and he's holding people up, and he's got this, and he's holding it, and so like Deb comes in and does this line where he says something, you know, she says something like, and I talk to God, and she says, yo, what's up? And she wants me to give you the gun. She wants you to hand over the gun to me. And he says something, you know, and he does something like, you know, what do you want, Warren? Stop calling me Warren. My name isn't fucking Warren. And everyone else in the entire show, his name isn't fucking Warren. His name isn't fucking Warren. His name isn't fucking Warren. I thought his name was Warren. It's freaking hilarious. It's a film that you have to really see. It really is. I'm not just... and I want to be clear, I'm not singing this film's praises because of the person who introduced it to me. Honestly, there's films that I've been introduced to by people that I have despised. For various reasons. But when something is this funny and this good, I acknowledge that, and I acknowledge the hell out of this film. This film is genius. It's funny. Yes, the plot is predictable, but it's a fun plot to go through. It's good characters, it's good lessons, it's good personalities, it's good everything. Check it out, my friends. Just please do me that one favour. Whew! Well, now I've gotten through that. Whew. I mean, what do I do next for my next Randomfish rewrite? I mean, if I do more Randomfish rewrites. Oh wait, that's it. Do you guys remember a little shitty film called League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? I might have some changes to that. What'll they be? You'll find out next time. Randomfish out.